I'm joined now by Siddharth Iyer, CEO of One Step Global, looks closely at international admissions. Mandy Zhang, a Harvard student, and Professor Andrew Latham. Thank you, all of you, very much for being with us. Professor Latham, let me come to you first. Do you believe that the bottom line is this, that whatever happens at Harvard, presuming that the US government keeps going after Harvard and other educational institutions, that America's ability to attract top-tier international talent will disappear, that the quality of education in America will suffer immensely, perhaps for years?
Well, there's a couple of issues on the table, one of which is that the Trump administration has declared war on higher ed in the United States around diversity, equity, inclusion, and anti-Semitism, and all of those things. And that's partly justified. You know, American higher ed has veered off course over the last couple of decades. But there are some other issues on the table, one of which is academic freedom. Another one of which is the revenue stream which international students generate. Indian and Chinese students pay the full freight, $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 a year for 4 years. And that subsidizes other American students who don't pay anything even close to that. So, you know, it's complicated. On the one hand, my view is that the Trump administration going after Harvard and Columbia and Yale and Princeton is partly justified. On the other hand, it's really scary to me because the potential downside here is enormous.
Mandy, one of the moves which the US government has announced is social media vetting as part of the process, to get visas. So consular visa, access for visa interviews has been stopped for the moment. And once it restarts, there would be this expanded social media vetting. Do you believe that that makes any sense?
I don't think that makes any sense. That is against the First Amendment right in the US. It's basically like if you post something bad about Trump, then Trump is just going to take action against you, which I think is so dangerous. And it resembles and is exactly like an authoritarian government. Thousands of students who come here to Harvard to learn and to grow and contribute to the US innovation research are now waking up in fear. I have a lot of friends who are international, and I also have a lot of suite mates who are also international. And I think this is not just like a political decision, it's a personal one. And Harvard and universities across the country depend on international students because they bring perspectives and skills. And let's be honest, a significant portion of tuition dollars that help fund scholarships and research for all students. But more than that, they bring a lot of humanity and they bring a lot of joy to people on campus. And now Trump is just, using social media as a political attack to target students who may be against him. And I think that's really dangerous.
Siddharth, in terms of the potential impact this may have on Indian students going to the United States, the numbers have been absolutely huge, the largest international student cohort of late. Do you expect to see a sharp drop?
Well, there is certainly going to be an impact in terms of, the start of the course for the fall 2025 intake, with the visas now being put on hold. I think US universities to a large extent are preparing themselves, for an outcome of this, where there are going to be delayed starts. There will be virtual classes and sessions like had happened during the COVID times. But, just to add to what Mandy was saying, let me quantify those numbers for you. It was $10 billion that Indian students contributed, to the overall US economy with the education and with the help of what they paid in terms of tuition fee, in terms of stay costs, and other expense. International students overall, they are $40 billion. And our Indian student volumes and numbers continue to grow in the US as a destination. It was almost 268,000 in 2023 when we actually overtook China as the top international student market, at least on that front. So without a doubt, it's certainly going to affect the confidence But given a fact that there is always going to be a skill-based requirement of Indian students in STEM OPT programs to fulfill gaps in AI, software engineering, biotech, and data science, Indian students are always going to be in demand. So it's very unlikely that the US is going to shut doors on all of them, which is certainly going to affect their GDP in a very direct way.
Professor Latham, one of the moves that has been announced is that the Trump administration is trying to identify Chinese students for visa revocation. Now, that's perhaps very difficult because they're trying to figure out links between these students and the Chinese Communist Party or involvement in quote-unquote critical fields and then throw them out. Again, it just seems to be very deliberate targeting and on the face of it, potentially illegal.
I'm going to say three things. One of which is that the Chinese students that are in my classes, and I have a lot of international students from China, when they study for 4 years in the United States, they change their minds. They're not communists, they're liberals. And when they go home, if they do go home, I think that's an important transformative thing. They actually are evangelizing liberalism back home. And so in 15 or 20 years, maybe China won't be communist anymore because of the students that we educate. Second, Indian Americans are the wealthiest demographic in the United States. And increasingly, they're the most powerful political demographic in the United States. Why in the world would any Republican or Democrat government want to irritate that demographic? It is politically suicidal. And what I mean by that is that the Indian population in this country is wealthier than the people who came over on the descendants of the people who came over on the Mayflower. In terms of medical schools and professional schools, yeah. I mean, really, this is the dominant demographic in the United States. And finally, I would just want to say that what in the world are we doing in terms of advancing American national interests? Why are we cutting off our nose to spite our face? Sorry, I'm born in England, grew up Irish, grew up Canadian, immigrated to Canada. You can see the thing on my shirt here.
Yep.
But I think that cutting off your nose to spite your face thing, I think that resonates throughout the Anglosphere.
A final question to you, Mandy. There's this huge legal battle right now. The future of Harvard, and it's almost unbelievable to be thinking or saying this, that there is a doubt on the future of Harvard and thousands of students on campus. Are you worried about, you completing your degree or, significant interference to your own education?
I think in the beginning, I think we were all scared, but we have been fighting back hard. Harvard College Democrats and also Harvard Students for Freedom. Students, faculty, alumni, and advocates have, spoken out loudly. We've been doing protests multiple times a month. Back in 2020, when the Trump admin tried to force international students to leave the country if their classes moved online due to COVID, Harvard and MIT filed a lawsuit within 48 hours. They won. Now we face this new wave of restrictions. Students are organizing again, just like what we've done in every part of history. Just this week, and 2 days ago, we organized huge protests covered by Associated Press. We were all speaking out against Trump, and we've all been signing petitions and also reaching out to our representatives. And we've seen students, be there for each other. And I think we're going to continue that fight, and we're not going to back down. So I am not that worried.
All right. Well, let's see what finally happens. I'd like to thank all of you very much for joining us today.